Okay, I can't tell if I'm live. Am I? Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry, you guys. Technical difficulties trying to juggle with Wi-Fi and everything. So I am here live at the Maricopa County Courthouse in Phoenix, Arizona for the Lori Daybell trial. And the state and the defense have both rested at the end of this court day. We did not expect this. Well, we sort of suspected it might be the case, right? But what happened is that when the testimony of Nathan Duncan finished, the state rested. And that wasn't totally unexpected. We thought for sure that Duncan was going to be the last witness. We didn't think that she was going to call Detective Moffat. And so we knew that the state was going to rest. So at that time, the judge excused the jury and then basically said to the two, the state and the defense said that, okay, let's schedule jury instructions. And at that time, the judge asked Lori and the defense team if they were going to call witnesses and put on a case. And at that time, she decided to confer with her attorneys, with the Daybell defense team for a while. And then Lori actually came forward with a Rule 20 motion. She said, the state has failed to produce any evidence that I agreed with another person to promote or assist. There is no evidence suggesting, or sorry, the evidence suggests self-defense by Alex. And then the judge came back and said, I do find that there's sufficient evidence. Oh, sorry, not the judge. This was Trina Kay, her rebuttal to the Rule 20 motion. She came back and said that there is sufficient evidence, including the texts, the timelines. The defendant invited Alex Cox to her house. We have the device placing him at her house, or we have texts confirming that Alex was at her house the evening beforehand. He came with a gun. Lori Vallow took Charles's cell phone and refused to return it, and she was having an affair with Chad Daybell. So Trina Kay listed out all of these reasons that there is enough evidence. And then Judge Boreski says the court finds that there is substantial evidence, and he denies her Rule 20 motion, basically to dismiss. And then at that time, Lori announced that the defense will rest. So they confirmed, the judge confirmed with her, you're not going to call any witnesses or put on a defense or testify yourself. And she said, no, Your Honor, the defense will rest. Something. So anyway, so I just wanted to report that to you and let you guys know what was going on. And it was stunning. The court was, the rest of the gallery was very surprised that this is what was happening. I apologize, guys. I had a visitor that I had to move around. I'm just making sure I'm in a safe place. So yes, we were all very surprised that that this happened this way today. We were not expecting this to happen today. So then there was some conversation about when to do jury instructions and when closing statements would happen. So the judge was asking for jury instructions to happen at 10 a.m. tomorrow and for closing statements to happen around 1 p.m. tomorrow. And at that point, the prosecution asked if we could possibly move to Monday because she wanted to have some time to make sure that they didn't want to hold the jury, over the weekend and that kind of stuff. And so she asked for that from the judge. And then the judge asked the defense if they were okay with doing closing statements on Monday. Lori said they were fine with that. And then at that time, the judge, or sorry, I'm so sorry, Trina Kay, the prosecutor, asked that the defense rest in front of the jury because that's an important thing, to have the jury present when the defense says that they're not going to put on a defense. And so they decided to go ahead and rest in front of the jury on Monday. Now that means that Lori could change her mind over the weekend. She could rest, sleep on it, and just think, maybe I do want to testify. She could be talked into testifying. She could be talked into, trying to put on a defense of some kind. And so the judge said that if you decide to change your mind, you need to let me know as soon as possible, because that's going to have some other implications for everything that we do. And so basically, the judge instructed Lori that if she is going to change her mind about resting, that she needs to let the judge know right away. And then the prosecutor confirmed that if they do come to court on Monday and the defense is prepared for either for Lori to testify or for her to call some witness that hasn't even been subpoenaed or interviewed yet, they want to be obviously prepared for that. So they asked the jury to come. So tomorrow morning at 10:45, there will be a review of the jury instructions. So this is where the state and the defense and the judge will come together to talk about what instructions are going to be given to the jury before they go out to deliberate. And so that's going to happen tomorrow morning at 10:45. And then closing statements will happen at 10:30 on Monday. The jury is coming back. The defense will rest in front of the jury, and then the jury will be given deliberation instructions, and then they will begin to deliberate at that point. So the reason we would love for her to testify, that would be great, because if she testifies, that brings in, the state is allowed to bring in her prior convictions. Now, we talked about this earlier today. They're not allowed to say what she was convicted of, just that she was convicted of a crime. And they're not allowed to say what the crime was, but they're allowed to give the date and the case number. So again, it's going to be pretty damaging to Lori to hear that just, a short time after Charles Vallow is shot on July 11th, then they can say, the first question that they ask her can be, do you have any prior convictions? And she will have to answer affirmative, yes, I do. And then the state can say, on or about September 9th, she can say you were convicted of a crime that occurred on or about September 9th. You were convicted of a crime that occurred on or about September 23rd. And so the jury is going to put together this timeline, and they already know that Lori and Chad were married on November 5th, because the marriage certificate, or not the marriage certificate, but the order for the marriage ceremony came into evidence today that that occurred in Hawaii on November 5th. So I don't think she's going to take the stand, because I don't think she wants that to come in. And she also, as far as I know, has not submitted her list of questions that she has to submit in order to testify. So she has to submit those to the judge in advance, and the judge and the state both have to agree about the questions that she's going to be asked. And then the state, of course, can bring in her prior convictions. So this is really unexpected that this happened today. It is the the case was originally supposed to take 5 weeks to prosecute, and here we are, basically not even all the way finished with week 2. This is day 7 of the actual trial, and just 2 days of jury selection. So way shorter than we thought that it was going to be. And I'm just going to go ahead and ask Jen to go ahead and star comments, because I don't think I can do it from here, but I can answer your questions. So I am going to do another recap a little bit later. In 1 hour, I'm going to appear live on the Life Take Two podcast, and so I don't want to get into the recap right now, because it's going to take a while, and also because I want to show you that some of the text messages that we read, and I think it'll be a lot easier for you to understand when you see them on the screen, and when we're able to see it and visually put together the timeline of when these texts came in, because there was a lot of that evidence today. It's a little complicated, and I want to be able to show it, and I can't do that here. So Isabel asks, Megan, the family is shocked by the other evidence? Yes, question mark. Well, I can't say, because I have no idea what the other family, I don't even know who else is watching the trial. I know it's likely that Rex and his daughters are watching from home. I know that it's likely that probably Janice, Barry, and Summer are watching from home, but I haven't spoken to them. I do not want to speak to them. And so I have no idea how they're reacting to all of this. I'm sure that Colby is probably shocked by a lot of the information that has come out. He's largely stayed away from investigating the case, so he's probably learning for the first time that his aunt and his uncle, obviously Alex was involved, and his grandparents, Janice and Barry, were involved, and his cousin Melanie was involved in running interference during this. And so this afternoon, that is the evidence that came in. And it was the reason that I wanted to be here in person, to see this evidence in person, because I know I was never going to get any kind of an answer, truthful answer from my family members about how involved they all were. And I was really grateful and also extremely angry and horrified to see how involved Melanie Pulowski, then Melanie Boudreau, and Summer were in running interference for Lori and trying to make this situation happen. So I have a lot of processing to do over that, although today was not unexpected. Again, it was like hearing Adam's testimony and hearing the confirmation that Janice was really Team Lori at that point. That was pretty devastating at the time. I'm not really feeling those same emotions right now. I was angry while I was in the courtroom, but again, this is not unexpected. So it's really confirmation of what I suspected all along, and it's the reason that I came here. All of that being said, I am flying home tomorrow. My daughter has a dance recital in the evening, and so I'm flying home in time to be there for that. And then the following week, I'm taking her to get her learner's permit on Tuesday, so I'm not coming back. I will not be here on Monday for closing statements. I will be covering it, but I'll be covering it from home. And the following Sunday, my daughter gets married. A couple of days later, my other daughter's expecting a baby, so I won't be back here. I will be covering everything from home. And I do want to come back for whatever sentencing takes place, if she's found guilty, which I think she will be. I can tell you the big shocking moment in the courtroom today, where there was an audible gasp from the gallery, was when the text message came in just before lunch. And I think I covered this on the other, did I cover this on the other live or did I not? I don't know. My brain is a little bit stretched thin right now as far as what I've already covered today. So I just want to, maybe this didn't come in before lunch. So then that means that I probably sound cuckoo when so this was after lunch. So this was the big shocking thing that came in. They're going through all these text messages between Alex and Lori, and then between Melanie and Lori. And then they bring in Chad's phone, and we get to see loin fire again, which I'm so grateful that they did not read the entire thing again, because I thought I was going to throw up as it was, seeing what I did see. And we'll go over some of that tonight on my recap, but I'm glad they didn't do it in court. So then they start talking about texts between Chad and Lori, calls between Chad and Lori, knowing that at 6 o'clock in the morning is when the phone calls started going back and forth between Chad and Lori on the day that Charles was shot. And then some text messages that went through. But this was really the damning thing, is that Chad also had another cell phone that was saved in Lori's phone. The contact was called Melanie 2. She was, Lori was trying to, hide the fact that she was talking to Chad Daybell. So his number was saved as Melanie 2. This is where they talked about the change of life insurance, how it was a spear to her heart, but we still have the 4,000 from the Social Security. And then she mentioned the Gadiantons, which Trina Kay did not know what that means, but I will tell you right now, the Gadiantons were a group of robbers in the Book of Mormon. They were closely associated. They were always referred to when people were having secret meetings and when they were having secret they called it secret combinations, to lie and steal and murder and cheat and all those things. And so Lori would often refer to anyone who was against her as a Gadianton. And so there's that text that comes in. Then the most shocking one of all, of course, is the text message where Lori says the life insurance beneficiary has been changed. And Chad replies, I wonder when that happened. It will be interesting to know if it happened before he had 2 bullets in his chest. There was an audible gasp from the gallery at that time. And I looked at the jury, and it looked like some recognition was dawning on some of their faces at that point. And so that was shocking for a lot of people, especially who are hearing it for the first time. And to me, that's what really drives the nail home, that this was a conspiracy at the very least between Lori and Chad. And of course, Alex being the shooter and being at her house the night before and bringing his gun with him. I'm hoping that that's what the jury is going to put together, and that they're going to come back with a guilty verdict based on that. So even if there was nothing else that went on, that's kind of what the prosecutor landed on, was the 2 bullets. And then the final thing that she brought out was the wedding certificate, or not the wedding certificate, but the order of the wedding venue in Hawaii, where Lori uses the name Lori Ryan, where they're getting set to have a beach wedding in Hawaii, and the date of the wedding is November 5th. That was incredibly, damning, that this whole scenario, that Trina K put this up in her original opening statement, where she said, in July of 2019, Lori Vallow wanted to be Lori Daybell. And then Charles was shot. There are all these, lovey-dovey, disgusting texts going back and forth between her and Chad, literally the day after Charles was killed and throughout the entire time. And then by November, they're married. So I definitely think that the state has proved its case. There was a little bit of doubt going into today, but all of the texts that they brought in this morning, I was like, good, we're getting there. We're getting with all of this information. And that was what I thought was brilliant about Trina K's presentation, is that she ended with the ones that are the most damaging and the most telling. So I just wanted to, Lori comes up with a cross, and we'll talk about this more when I do my recap later, because her cross was quite lengthy. We did have to take a break in the middle of it. And I will just tell you, if you haven't seen it or heard it yet, there were some funny moments in there, because Lori asked some really dumb questions. She obviously doesn't know the difference between blood and DNA. She doesn't know that there was this stupid moment where she asked the detective if Charles left in an ambulance. And he said, no, we don't know. That he left in a medical examiner's van. We don't use an ambulance to transport a dead body. So her cross was completely pointless. But I do think there was one moment where finally she was asking some relevant questions about why they didn't luminol, etc. Well, it was dumb of her to ask that, because she's basically introducing an idea that Alex tried to clean up the crime scene and they needed luminol in order to find the blood. So it was dumb from that standpoint. So I want to answer a few of your questions. I don't want to talk too much else about what happened, because I want to review that, recap it later, but I wanted to bring you the breaking news and the shocking news that the state and the defense have both rested in the Lori Daybell case. I don't think any of us expected it to happen this afternoon, and it was just crazy. So yeah, she can change her mind. That's absolutely true. She has the weekend to sleep on it, think about it. She can come back on Monday morning and decide to testify or to call witnesses or put on a defense. So it's not over yet, but I honestly don't expect her to testify. So I'm going to go ahead and read some of these questions that are starred. Are you shocked by the family text? Yes, I definitely am. But I haven't really processed that shock yet. So I'm sure that it will hit me a little harder probably at some point. But again, this is kind of what I expected. What I expected is that they were all involved. I just didn't know the extent to which. And I also wasn't completely certain of the timing of everything. So it was important to me to have the text messages, the timing, to know who said what at what time and everything. And it was shocking, but I haven't really felt the weight of it yet, and I'm sure that I will at some point. And And I don't know if I can't really control anything from here, so it's going to be weird for a minute. Was the prosecution afraid that Lori would dig into Moffat and see how his investigation was botched? I don't think the prosecution was afraid of that, but Lori did dig into that, and she did ask some really pertinent questions to Detective Duncan about how the investigation was handled and the things that they didn't test. So she actually had some loose and clear arguments about this today. Do you think this was news to Adam today that he was on the Z list and Zach was number 24? I honestly don't think it was news to Adam. He knew that I'm pretty sure he knew he'd been labeled dark. I don't know if he listened to any of the evidence in the Daybell case, but the text that said bad news about our brother, that one came out in the Daybell case. So it's possible that he knew that already, but I've heard him say before that he did breathe a sigh of relief when Alex died. I think all of us in the family did, because, he was the one doing the dirty work. Have we heard about the 24 before? She said Zach was the 24th, like zombies. Yes. Apparently there were 24 people that they knew of that were on the list, that they were actively watching, monitoring their dark light level, who were zombies. I don't know who the other 24 are. I would love to ask. I would love to find out the answer to that question, but I don't know if we will, and especially not before the end of the case. So we're just going to have to wait. Bury me with a B. A bit behind, but did they ever show Charles on the body cam trying to get help watching while I worked? So maybe I missed it. They did not. They did not show that. And I'm not really sure why they didn't show it. I thought it would have been a good idea to show it because I think it humanizes Charles and it shows how concerned he was, but it also shows how dismissive the police were of him at that time. So I don't know exactly the reason they decided not to show it, but that did not come into evidence today. So I don't see any more questions unless I'm missing something. Jen, you can let me know, and I can't see comments while I am looking at these, so I apologize. Yes, I believe unfortunately, 2 of Melanie's kids were on there. Chad's insurance money get returned to do you mean Charles's? Charles' insurance money did not get returned. It was distributed to Kay. Kay received the money. She was the beneficiary. And yeah, can't show anyone who's dead, can't cross-examine. That's true. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, we still have closing arguments. And I have a bet out there that Lori is going to do a find and replace in her document and just find everything that says the evidence will show and replace it with the evidence has shown. Either that or the state did not show or something. I don't know. I think she's just going to repeat all the same stuff and say the evidence has shown that, and then just say all the same stuff that she said before. Jenny Allison says she helped the prosecution. She said Charles didn't have the bat then and Alex didn't get hit in the head. Yeah, she was trying to say, wouldn't the absence of blood or the presence of blood mean that Alex never got hit with the bat or did? It was kind of confusing the way she worded it. She didn't mean to help the prosecution, but she did in a couple of cases. She opened the door a couple of times for the jury to formulate a new idea about who could have done this. So anyway, she definitely did a lot of dumb things. Let's just say it that way. What was the reaction to Summer's name? I'm not sure what you mean by asking that question. Do you just mean like the jury in the gallery seeing Summer's name in the text messages? I don't know. I don't know if that was shocking to people or not, because they don't really know who she is, right? I really appreciate your kind comments, you guys. Thank you so much for your support. I can't see who is here, and I can't see how many people in the chat. I can't see likes. I can't see anything. I'm basically in StreamYard as a guest right now because this is the only way that I could make it happen just right now. So I just appreciate you being here. I don't know if there have been super chats or stickers, but if there have been, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you guys were here for this. This is breaking news. C-Stars meant the gallery. I didn't really hear much of a reaction from the gallery on Summer's name. I think everybody pretty much expected that Lori was in contact with her, and we knew that she was going to be brought in at some point. It is really disappointing. It is really, that's all I can say. It's really disappointing to know how involved the whole family was. And shocking and horrible. So I just, I don't really know what to say about that right now. I'm obviously still processing. So question, no more BS, good to see you. Was anyone, family or friends in the courtroom for Lori in any way? No, there was nobody there who was there, quote unquote, supporting Lori. None of her other family. Rex has been here a couple of times. Brandon Boudreau was here on the first day. Obviously Colby has been here, and that's really all I can think of, her family members, but none of us were there to say, you know, here, let me be here for Lori in this difficult time. Kitty Cat says, are you shocked that Adam and Zach are designated dark? No, not really, because I think that Lori's Lori and Chad's way of basically saying these people are not on our side. It was anybody who is not on their side, anybody who is in the way of the two of them being together, and basically calling her crazy or him a terrible author. All those people were all labeled dark. And so it doesn't surprise me that Adam and Zach were on that, because Adam was the #1 person who was against Lori. She was helping Charles. And the cardinal sin in a narcissistic family is to be disloyal to the family. And I think that's what we saw with Janice and Barry and Summer and Melanie all involved, is that if you're against Lori, if you disagree with her in any way, it's very black and white, that you're completely against her and would be completely dark. Seville says, does Lori have extra income money now? I don't think so. I don't think she has any income. I don't know. Somebody in her family might be putting money on her commissary account, but she doesn't have income per se. She doesn't make money, so I don't know really what that's about. So I am going to go ahead and get ready for my appearance on Life Take Two. Please go and follow that channel. Jenny is absolutely amazing. I was with her on a panel the other night, and she's got an excellent channel with some excellent content. Then I will be doing my recap after that. And then after that, tomorrow morning, I will be on Latter Daily Digest at 8:30 with a recap. I also am talking with John DeLynn about Mormon stories. There was a lot of Mormon testimony that came out today, Book of Mormon, Nephi stuff. And so I'm trying to put something together for him, but again, all availability. And then on Friday morning, I will be on with Susan Hendricks, and the name of her channel, I'm so sorry, it is Headline True Crime. So please go over and follow Headline True Crime. I met Susan here on, I believe it was last Wednesday or Thursday. She is a former CNN anchor. She has an excellent true crime channel. I was also on a panel with her on Surviving the Survivor. I think she's incredibly smart. People are asking about the jurors' reactions. And I will just say, as I've said before, that the jury is always paying very close attention. Some people are taking notes. And I did notice that the female juror in the front row was looking at Kay quite a lot today to see her reaction to all of these different things. And Kay was upset and I was upset. And both of us were doing a lot of head shaking when these texts were coming out and trying really hard not to have a visible reaction. So I had my head down a lot because there were times when I was infuriated, and then there are also times when I wanted to laugh. And so we were trying really hard not to show our emotions openly, because that can influence the jury too. And I don't want there to ever be a problem. So if there's more going on, then sorry, some of these things comments going by too fast. So, okay. So tonight, Life Take Two. And tomorrow morning, Latter Daily Digest. and Friday morning headline true crime. And what I'll do is I already posted a link to the Life Take Two episode as a post on my YouTube channel. I will go ahead and post a link for the other two channels on Thursday and Friday morning. And then, of course, if I go on Mormon Stories, I'll post a link for that as well. And I'll post them all as posts on my channel. E. McCarthy's asking, have you made eye contact with Lori in court? I did the very first day that I was there a couple of times. After that, I avoided looking at her because I do not want to give her the attention. There was a brief moment today when I was watching her confer with her investigator just before they rested, where she looked over at me and made eye contact, and I immediately looked away because I really don't want to give her that dopamine hit where she knows somebody is paying attention and watching today. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for everyone. I hope that I will see you later this evening. Life Take Two is in about 40 minutes at 6 p.m. local time. I believe it's going to last about an hour, although I don't know exactly. And then about 15 minutes after that's over, I will do my recap where we will read through all the text and I'll give you all the evidence that came in this afternoon. So again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all of your support. If you're new to the channel, please go subscribe. Please hit the like for me if you can. I think Jen has posted my Patreon and my Venmo down there. If anyone is willing to support financially, I always appreciate that. And again, I just am so grateful for everything you guys have done. It's going to take me a second to pull up the StreamYard so that I can end the stream here. So I'm just going to continue to say thanks, especially to all of you who've been there for me since the very beginning of this whole crazy trial. This has been a wild ride, and I honestly am so relieved that it's almost over. I really hope that Lori does not put on any kind of defense. And just because then it'll be over sooner and I can rest. Oh, all right, I'm ending it.